Right. Well, I feel quite lucky to have Andrew Austin with me today on the podcast. Why, you ask? Well, Andrew's been a long time favorite of mine in the context of the model of neurolinguistic programming. In fact, this is my second copy of The Rainbow Machine. My first one got destroyed in a house fire. And why was I drawn to the Rainbow Machine? Well, because an absolute hero of mine said it's probably one of the most significant books they had read in the context of NLP. Stephen Andreas, who, when my first wife was dying, responded to an email with a phone call to me, which was kind of delightful. So I'm really pleased to have you on. We've got quite a lot in common. My
Thank
first,
you, Mark.
Yay! Thanks for coming, Andrew.
Oh, pleasure to be here.
I
And
was
thank you for your kind words.
I was rambling on. I forgot I had a guest. We got a few things in common. So my first nursing job was on neurosurgical ward.
Good, good.
What else? I'm a Discordian Pope.
Well done.
So, and the people listening are thinking, what? You got to go and look at Anton Wilson to really get a handle on that. So you've got a rich background in terms of nursing, occupational health nursing. A lot of people that listen to this podcast will be midwives and nurses. You are a major contributor to the model of NLP, even though you diss it like you're a crazy man. Come on, what is it? What is it about these alphabet therapists, as you kind of rant about on your YouTube channel? What is it that
Well,
really...
I've just got the rich and varied background. It could either be seen as a good thing or it's the inability to retain a steady job.
Yeah.
And quite possibly the attitude that I have to alphabet therapists today, I've always had to any profession that I've worked in.
Yeah.
I was just as much of a nuisance when I was a qualified nurse working in hospitals as I am today to the alphabet therapy scene.
Well, you wouldn't last long in the NHS these days, mate.
No, no, no. I stay well clear. They wouldn't take me now.
Yeah.
But ultimately, what it comes down to is what I see people doing a lot of the time is they're merely going through the motions of doing a job.
Yeah.
And what they have is a job that involves the welfare of another human being. And in the alphabet therapy scene, here's what I see. Most people self-aggrandizing. And
Yeah.
I'll say that quite freely. Most coaches and therapists just have a look at their website, just have a look at their videos, look at the stuff that they write. It's largely about them
Yeah.
and it seems to me they need their clients more than their clients need them because
Yeah.
they are forging for themselves greatness. They're trying to live the dream, live their own life, and all the rest of it. And so, what's my beef with it all? It seems that the patient or the client has been forgotten.
Yeah.
As these coaches and therapists try and build their own career and compete with each other.
Yeah.
And so I try as best I can to be a balancing force against that ethos.
Yeah. I mean, you made the quite, well, it felt risky decision to me, but you made the decision to come off social media in terms
Totally.
of Facebook. What was that all about? Why?
There was a number of things. One was I realized I'd been suckered in. The Zuckerberg algorithm had got my brain, and I as much as I tried to dress it up to be something else, I was a social media addict.
Yeah.
And how was I spending so much of my time in the infinite scroll of social media? And I started to do an analysis on it because I thought, okay, so I'm spending a lot of time on social media. Why? Well, I'm promoting my business. I'm promoting myself. I'm trying to network, and it's a way of staying in touch with people. And I thought, okay, that's a good story. Let's test it. So then what I did is I put a variety of different software on all of my different websites. And I started for how long now? So for a few months, I started analyzing, okay, where does my business come from? And at the conclusion of it, I found less than 5% of all my work is coming from my work on social media. My
5%?
work on social media. Less than 5%. Now, yet 95% of my time was probably being spent on social media. So I thought, okay, this makes absolutely no sense. But But the Zuckerberg algorithm of the infinite scroll is designed to make you think more is happening than it's really happening.
Yeah.
And when we actually analyze specific data to specific individuals, none of that was happening. It's an illusion. So I thought, okay, let's see. I'll quit. I'm going to delete everything.
You did.
Everything.
I remember.
Twitter, Facebook.
I was shocked in a way because your comments and posts generated so much traffic.
It generated traffic. It didn't generate hardly generated any work whatsoever.
Wow.
Because the people who are the fans of my antagonism on social media aren't my customers, nor are they the source of customer.
Right.
So here was the first thing that happened. So then I kept tracking the data on all my websites and everything else. Where is the business coming from? The moment I quit, there was a sudden increase in business and trade. And the amount of money I've made since has been far exceeded what I made prior. Wow. There's no business sense to social media whatsoever for any coach or therapist. I totally believe that to be true. They're trapped in a lie.
Well, I am.
Now, but here, and I've got to, just because I know some of your listeners will be going, but social media is important to me. Yeah, because what's happened is, especially Facebook, they've made small businesses dependent because people have set up groups and networking groups and professional forums. They've set up private groups where essentially Facebook is the coming together place for their particular niche.
Yeah.
And so now people have a certain dependency because they know everyone else is fixated on Facebook and spend all their time there. And to try and now wrestle that away is almost impossible. Well, what I did was I just canceled all social media. And on my professional front, I have canceled support and endorsement for any social media group that is in my name or any of my organization's names. Simple as that.
Wow. Or even LinkedIn.
Everything. And everything for me has improved immeasurably.
You know, I've almost got a sense of being afraid sitting here thinking about it.
Uh-huh.
I really have. Because I've lived in the illusion, and I should know because I've spent a fair amount on advertising on Facebook with dribs and drabs of income coming through it.
Yeah. Now, I've got to give you a little backstory as to what happened. What was the lead up? So I've been toying with the idea of deleting social media for quite some time, but never actually taking that extra step to do it because I was still being convinced that some good is coming from this.
Yeah.
Now, two events happened in the same week. One was I saw the film on Netflix called The Social Dilemma.
Yeah, I don't watch it.
It's not a great film to watch. It's not particularly entertaining, and I would say it's not a particularly good, well-made film. However, it doesn't matter. What was demonstrated in the film is absolutely vital viewing. Now, from there, I then went to the Joe Rogan podcast, where the creator of that film is now giving about a 3-hour conversation with Joe Rogan.
Right.
I forget the guy's name now. I think it's Michael somebody. I would recommend watch the film and then watch that interview because there's a lot of data that he talks about that was not in the movie. And that was the decider. Now, the same day I watched that podcast, I made a antagonistic post on a local forum. And the antagonistic post was in reaction to somebody posting something about mental health and all the rest of it. Yeah. And I made the post, then went and made a tea and took my tea into the bathroom and allegedly bath, came out of the bathroom and I discovered hell had been unleashed. Because the poster of that post was not in Scotland as I imagined him to be. He actually was just up the road.
Wow.
And was suitably unimpressed enough to have turned up at my address, and hell broke loose. And I thought, okay, this has cut across into, we've got the fantasy world of social media, and now reality has come crashing in.
Yeah.
And I've got to say that the individual in concern was quite frightening. So now what I've got is a wake-up call. And I've got to be honest, that guy has done me such an enormous favor. Now, I waited a few days for him to calm down, and then I contacted him, and actually I said those exact words. I said, "You have done me the biggest favor I can't even begin to tell you." And I explained everything to him. And yeah, he wanted me to have coffee, and all was good.
Oh, good.
Great guy, absolutely great guy. But what the shock to me was this: I've got my imaginary social media life. And then one piece of reality comes crashing into that.
Yeah.
And suddenly I can see the truth of what that fantasy is. It's a fantasy.
Yeah.
And I thought, right, that's it. I'm deleting everything and we're done.
Yeah, it's all very well for you though, because only 5% of your income was coming from it. You had 95% still coming in, and you had
And
that.
now the question, here's what I have.
But what about those people out there though? Like me, I do feedback from my courses. I do a Survey Monkey thing, and the vast majority of those who come on my course say they saw a video on some kind of social media platform.
Yeah.
So I'm not got much money coming in, to be frank, Andrew, but it seems that social media is making something. What about people like me? If I'm not on social media, where does the bloody...
Now, here's the other thing. See, now I'm a huge advocate of getting rid of social media. Get your life back, get your brain back, because people have been brainwashed by the mind-blowing amounts of money they spend in split testing. And again, you see, if you watch the documentaries on this, they will, because they have tens of millions of users per hour on Facebook, what they can do is they can assign, say, 10 million over there, a slight tweak to how the screen looks, and another 10 million, another slight tweak in the other direction, and everyone else is the same. They can now compare who stays on the social media the longest. Even the color blue was adjusted incrementally each way until they found the perfect color blue. And every which way, that's how they test stuff out. The illusion is you think you're seeing the same world through your social media that everyone else sees. But of course, the algorithm is tailoring it specifically to you. So the world that you're looking at is not the same world that somebody else is looking at. And that's why we get these reality tunnels, these echo chambers of thought and so forth. What did people do for business before social media? Well, people did very, very well.
Yeah.
And what they actually did was mostly involving hard work, whether it's talking to people, actually physically talking to people, going to see people, making phone calls, physical real world advertising. People, I mean, who else? Am I the only person that advertises on notice boards? I mean, seriously, am I the only person that does that? Because I don't know anyone who does. There's not a single notice board in the district that hasn't got one of my posters on it.
Well, what about in a post-apocalyptic world, right? Post-COVID world, where me, for example, before COVID, I was traveling hundreds of miles to conferences, to talk and do trainings all over the place. COVID hits. I find out something unique about myself. I don't like people as much as I thought I did. And I enjoy being at home, sat here in my office, right?
Yeah.
And I trained in America, Dubai, Sweden, Germany, only possible because of everyone now is happy with Zoom.
Yeah.
So my future work isn't going to be local.
That's right.
It's going to be all over the world. So
most of my work is international via Zoom or Skype. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you've been international for ages because you go to India and Boulder,
Right, and then now here's the point. I go to those places. So can I just tell you how I got the work in India? So for those listening, I do a lot of work in India. I haven't, obviously COVID has put a kibosh on all of that. So one of the projects I do in Delhi, which unfortunately we were just starting and then it ended. So this is with a huge homeless organization in Delhi who serve, a massive population of people. And so we're setting up a business arrangement with them, which is reciprocal. So both parties benefit from it. Now, to get that contract, what I had to do was I had to fly to Delhi. And initially, we were going to be looking at working through the Directorate of Prisons in Delhi, which is they've got one of the biggest prisons in the world actually up there, and they've got a very, very different model to how it's run to how we would consider prisons to be run. And so I was interested in learning more about what they're actually doing there in terms of rehabilitation, et cetera, et cetera. So I fly over to Delhi. I'm there for 3 days to have one 10-minute meeting. Now I fly over there, and when I get there, of course, the guy is off sick. He's actually, he's got a few issues. And so that meeting didn't happen. So I flown all the way to Delhi to have that one meeting. And of course, that's not cheap. That's a huge expense to me to do that.
Yeah.
Now, while I'm there, I think, hang on, let's just have a look what else I can do while I'm here. And so I start asking around. And that's when I get introduced to this particular charity. Have a very brief conversation with somebody while I'm there. And then I fly home again. That brief conversation arranged for another meeting. So then a period of time passes. I then fly back to have 1 10-minute meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's what it takes. Now, that's not cheap to do. And now that's the kind of stuff that I do. And not everything I do, of course, works out.
No, I understand.
What most people are doing is firing off emails.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or they're making posts on social media, or they're waiting, they're hoping, they're waiting for something magical to happen, or they're waiting for when the worst one, when the time is right.
Yeah.
And sometimes you've just got to chance it. And that's what I do a lot.
Yeah,
And most people don't.
you had already built that. You know, I listen to you often, and you know, you have various strategies that you've used over the years to get clients. You know, and one of the reasons there's loads of stuff we could talk about. We could talk about metaphors of movement, which Stephen Andreas said, bless him, was one of the most innovative developments within NLP. We could talk about IEMT. I got you on today because within the birth world, there is a bit of a trend for one or two social media savvy people to be selling quite expensive coaching packages.
Yeah.
To independent practitioners who might be antenatal teachers, they might be yoga pregnancy teachers, they might be hypnobirthing teachers. And these kind of gurus are selling multiple thousand packages to turn these independent practitioners into high-earning one-to-one workers. And me and you both know it's bollocks, right?
Right.
I mean,
there's more money to be made by training people to be coaches than there is to be coaches.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's easy to find out. I just went to Companies House and looked at some of their returns. And they're not making thousands of pounds a year, but they're selling that sizzle.
So it creates an illusion for everybody that that opportunity is out there. For
exactly.
Sure.
But they're making a fortune off of the backs of, well, they're not making a fortune. Yeah. Off the backs of people that don't really have that money to invest in this sizzle. You know, birth workers are by and large low paid, doing their best in the context of a vocation as they perceive it. Yes. And I just wanted from you some kind of direction to those independent practitioners that are seeking to build a sustainable business.
I can tell you exactly what I did. And what I did was very, very simple. Now, most of the time, whenever I've advised people to do these things that I did, no one ever does. Because the first thing that comes back is everyone tells me why that won't work. Oh, it might have worked for you, but it won't work for me. Or, well, I don't have the opportunity to do that. Immediately, there's a whole rack of excuses that come back. And I just think, well, just go and do it.
Yeah, test it.
So for me, this all started off with how my own natural naivety to not know what I'm not supposed to do. Right. So, for example, at 21, maybe 21, 22 years old, I wanted to change the job that I was doing. I just qualified as a nurse and I wanted to go and work in accidents and emergency. So I thought, big department in this hospital. I hear really good things. It's got one of the top consultants in the country working there. I thought this would be a good place. Now, I didn't have the requisite post-registration qualifications or the 6-month post-registration experience that you're supposed to have. Yeah. Didn't have that. Yeah. What I did is at the end of a shift I was doing, I went down the stairs of the fire escape in that department into the department. I found the boss in the darkest blue uniform and I said, I want to come and work here. Can I have a job?
What's that straightforward?
That's exactly what it is. And she just laughed. She said, who are you? And I said, I'm the guy who wants to work here. I'm Andy. And I introduced myself and I started work the next day.
Wow.
It was that simple. Wow. The temporary job I was in, I could just walk out of. And that's exactly what happened. I started work there the next day. Yeah. Now, most people would never do that because they would immediately go, well, they would say no. Well, you won't know until you ask. Yeah. Now, 9 times out of 10, when I do those sort of things, people say no.
Yeah.
But I don't worry about it because unless I chance it, I'll never find out.
Yeah, got it.
So I don't care about the things not working out. Now, when I started out as a therapist, the first thing that I did was I knew the people that needed the help that I had the most were the people who had the least.
Yeah.
So whilst the coaching industry is marketing itself on the 6-figure client,
always packages, coaching
up.
packages.
Oh, the amount of people that have over the years that keep telling me I've got to put my prices up. Well, then I compare. Okay, let's compare our incomes. And I
Yeah.
don't get it, because the people who need the help the most have the least. And then they come back with, well, but if it's important to people, they'll find the money. That's just greed and conceit that people would express that value.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I went to the local housing offices. I both went for the council and also the private agencies that they outsource to. And I told everybody who I was and what I was doing. Now, I used to get a steady stream of referrals from the housing office. The unemployment office, I did the same. I took in a great big box of donuts with me that day. And I said, I need to come tell you what I do, but I also want to see what you're up to. I want to see how it functions here, because I need to connect with the community that I'm working with and be part of that. So I'm not going down there just to sell services. I want to know that when I've got a client in front of me who's facing a housing situation, who do I refer them to?
You need to be at a signpost. Yeah.
I did that with the probation office. I did the local police station. I went to all of I did the pastoral counselling service. So largely it's through the churches. They were absolutely fantastic, and their skill set. I've got to say, the pastoral counselling service, where I give them 10 out of 10 for their dedication, their expertise, and their experience. I connected to all of these organisations, and I took the time to do so. What I never did was a sales pitch,
Right.
and I never expected. Here's the classic mistake. I'm a newly qualified practitioner. I'm going to let all the GP surgeries know so they can send me all their clients. Like, because the GPs aren't there to be a
Well,
referral house for
to be
bloody coaches.
honest, in the current climate, they're not going to do that anyway, because alphabet therapists, you and me included, we're accredited by no one.
Right. And yet I get a not a I wouldn't say a stream, a trickle of referrals from GPs.
Right. Because of
and
your expertise, though. I mean, early on, you did make a
how
point.
do those GPs know me? They don't know me because of my expertise. The skill set is not what they know.
Okay.
Because they don't know, they don't see what I do. The important thing is that, again, this is the thing. It's like, so the person who's already got the business, they must have something special about them. Well, we all had to start somewhere, as did I.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember, I mean, God, where I was living, I got to the point, actually, I had no income. I had everything, I was just getting by because I wasn't charging clients very much. And I had pretty much run out of money. And where you go scraping through all the drawers of junk to look for the coins, that's what I did to go and get some bread and milk.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, I will. But I still continued with what I was doing. Basically, you've got to survive what Frank Faraday called the hungries. If you can get through the hungries, then you're pretty much going to do well.
Yeah.
But you've got to be willing to put up with the hungries.
The dip, as Seth, what's his name, talks about. The dip that every successful business goes through.
Yes.
If it's going to survive long term.
But the other mistake that I see, it's the most, I think one of the most common mistakes that I see coaches and therapists make. They all want to portray themselves as an expert right from the off. I never once pretended that I knew what I was doing when I didn't.
Yeah.
And when I was very starting out, my first posters, I'm a big fan of posters everywhere, notice boards, postcards everywhere, in every bloody notice board you ever come across, stick a poster on it.
Still.
I'm just about to launch another campaign in doing exactly that. I've not done it for a while, so I've not been working for the last couple of years because of the COVID. Yeah. But now I'm back. This is my next mission, is to go back to postering everywhere. People don't do that, but they also pretend to be brilliant already. Now, when I was starting out, my first posters, and I've got a folder of them now from 1994 somewhere, I kept them all, which would be things like, I'm newly qualified hypnotherapist. I'm seeking human subjects to experiment upon. Your safety is not assured, or words to that effect. And people would reply to me. When I'm testing out a new model, so I create different models of work. When I'm testing it out, I run what I call experimental workshops. I stick out notices everywhere to say, okay, I've got a new thing I'm testing out. I don't know what the results are. I'd like to find out.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how many people off volunteer. Now, those people don't volunteer because they know who Andrew T. Austin is.
No.
They don't know who I am. But they're curious, they're interested, and also they want to help somebody out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody I was talking to yesterday. The other thing is going through the hungries where I had no money. The stuff you can do if you're seen to be making an effort to basically help yourself to help others. It's amazing how many people are willing to help.
Yeah.
and a small advert back then in the local newspaper, the free paper, for what I needed, like when I needed a printer. Basically, I need a printer. I'm just starting up as a hypnotherapist. I don't have a printer, can't afford one. God, I had so many offers. I could have opened up a printer shop.
Wow.
Because people are really keen to help somebody out who's demonstrating they're making an effort.
Yeah.
What coaches and therapists do is they try and present themselves to be ready-made. I'm one of the best because I trained with insert name of celebrity trainer.
Yeah.
And that doesn't cut it with people. No one's interested in that.
No one cares.
But everyone likes the small guy who's making an effort.
Yeah.
No one likes the conceited, arrogant person who's trying to demonstrate themselves to be a superior human being.
Yeah. So I'm thinking of something you've said in the past, where you've spoken about branding as yourself rather than your modality or your chosen alphabet. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, the reasoning I had with this, now when I started, I was calling myself a hypnotherapist.
Yeah.
And then for a little while, I made that mistake of calling myself a clinical hypnotherapist, which actually was a legitimate thing because I was working largely with clinical conditions. But in all honesty, that was an ego thing.
Right.
So now, post-COVID, what was the question?
No,
I have concentration issues.
No,
still.
don't worry. You in the past, I've read or heard you talk about yourself being the brand, and the Austin
branding
being the brand, rather than lumping yourself together with hypnotherapists or NLPs.
Now, if we look at how many hypnotherapists have qualified, say in the last normal year, it's probably quite a few thousand in the UK. Now have a look at, because I think of all the people running courses, now have a look at how many over the last 10 years people have qualified as a hypnotherapist. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
So you're coming into a market that already has lots and lots of people trying to make it, and also lots of people who are pre-established. Why in the world would anyone be interested in you, the new person?
Yeah.
And so essentially, if I go, I'm a hypnotherapist, I could be an absolutely awesome marketer for hypnotherapy. But the public will tend to assume that all hypnotherapists are equal because they don't know. They assume that if you're a hypnotherapist, you know what you're doing. And So I do a fantastic marketing job of hypnotherapy. People go, oh, hypnotherapy, that will help me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but it's quite expensive. Let's find someone cheaper.
Yeah.
It's like when people buy Coca-Cola or a brand of potato chips. Two sellers selling the same brand, everyone assumes they will be the same product because they will be.
Yeah.
But seller A is more expensive than seller B. Seller A is doing a better marketing job, but seller B might get the sales.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to buy from him and get them from over there, which is what happens, especially today on the internet. People shop around on price.
Yeah.
So one of the key things is that I needed to put myself in a position where I'm not competing with anybody else. There is no competition because I'm not a hypnotherapist. I'm just Andy. Or Andrew T. Austin in the sort of the stage name, and that's what I push on. So what I essentially market of myself is not quite so much the services of what I offer, but more the attitudes and the values that I believe in.
Yeah.
As a mental health worker, as a therapist, or whatever people would like to call me.
Yeah.
And so that's essentially it. Who is Andrew T. Austin? Now, the most common mistake everyone makes is they go into a conformity. This is what hypnotherapists do, so that's what everyone else is doing, so I better do the same.
They template effectively. So they pick a template.
Yes. Yeah. But what they are, of course, is instantly forgettable.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I say about the majority of coaches and therapists that I know. They're instantly forgettable. Now, anyone who would spend a few minutes in the room with Richard Bandler is not going to forget the guy.
No.
Same with John Grinder. There was a really good reason why they were so successful so well, not just because of the brilliance of what they did. There's plenty of brilliant people out there doing brilliant stuff and no one's ever heard of.
Yeah.
But what they weren't was boring.
No, God no.
And they weren't professional. For me, professionalism largely is akin to being boring. And they were instantly memorable. If you look at all the people who have made names for themselves, then they may well have brands, but that's not what they sell. The brand is secondary to their personal identity.
Yeah.
And what we see is the people who are much more likely to have high narcissistic value, narcissistic traits, are much more likely to be high profile
Yeah.
because they market themselves. They don't market a service.
Yeah.
The service is secondary to themselves.
Yeah.
And that's why, especially the NLP world, is awash with narcissists, successful narcissists,
Yeah.
because they have the shamelessness of marketing themselves.
Being of service as an orientation is not quite as sexy, is it?
Yeah,
It's not, is it?
but I think we can market our identity ourselves as, you know, the stage persona that we would have in whatever role we have.
Yeah.
We can do that without being a narcissist.
Yeah.
But I think because most therapists and coaches are actually nice people.
Yeah.
Nice isn't enough. Nice is forgettable.
Got it.
And the other thing is they've got to have, and sadly, so many people fail on this one. They've got to have the skill set and the ability. Don't claim success when you haven't got it.
Yeah.
I'm the only person I know that posts on his website the negative testimonials.
Do you?
Yes, I'm the only person that does that.
What, on brain, mind, and language?
23 NL people. Yep, have a look. I'm the
Right.
only one that has negative testimonials.
Well, we'll post all the links anyway. That's amazing.
Now, the reason I do that is because it makes the true ones more believable, because they're true. What most people try and do is suppress any negative press.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be honest about it. I don't know if I can help people. I'm going to find out. And what's my success rate? It's pretty good. It could be better. And I have plenty of people I haven't done very well with who aren't very happy with me.
Yeah.
There's no point in pretending that that isn't true. There's no value to that at all. And yet that is the mindset, because people are so insecure, they're frightened to actually admit that maybe they screwed up once in a while. Well, yeah, that's what it is to be human.
Yeah. Yeah. Authentic.
Now, that's also, for me, part of the making myself memorable.
Yeah.
Because I try and be honest as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, because not many people are doing that, are they?
Yeah.
You know, so you've got this newly qualified, I don't know, hypnobirther or antenatal teacher, wants to go independent. Your first bit of advice is get rid of social media.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your second bit of advice, because I noticed you developed a specialty, if you like, in schizophrenias.
Yes.
And you published stuff. You became known as someone who had expertise or certainly knowledge about that.
Yes.
I'm guessing that was to set you aside, or to...
No, there was two things to that. One is I was doing a lot of work with schizophrenia, and that both in organized psychiatry and residential accommodation psychiatry. So effectively, what passes for care in the community.
You worked as a member of staff, or...
Yeah. And so I actually worked, ironically, I did some stuff in psychiatry, but most of the stuff I did with schizophrenia was in residential housing.
Okay.
And so that's where I got an insight into the care in the community projects, and then all the support services. And I got a little bit of insight into who's who and how do they all connect up. Now, I say what passes for care in the community because it's shocking. It really is shocking.
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
But it was also a particular interest of mine, and it was a subject that I think I made myself an expert on. Right. I studied every orthodox text known to man and every anti-psychiatry text known to man. So when I would be
Bateson wrote a chapter, didn't he, in Ecology of Mind, which I still don't understand, if I'm honest.
It's something to study, not read, Bateson.
Oh God, yeah.
But I had a knowledge base that even today I don't think I know any other therapist outside of mainstream psychiatry who has that knowledge base.
Right.
So here's what would happen. So I'd be on a local radio interview, or the local paper would have a story, and the Southampton Evening Echo, I lived in Southampton at the time, I was being quoted in that newspaper pretty much every week, because they would have a mental health story going on. They want a quote from a therapist. They'd phone me for the quote.
They'd ring you. Yeah.
And that was a consistent thing. How did they know about me? Because I sent them my CV.
Right.
Simple as that. I did that. I've done that. I did that there. I'm about to do that again with the local papers here.
So almost like a press package.
Yes.
Yeah.
And people just simply don't do it. I mean, who else puts out? Am I the only one who puts out press releases? I mean, I don't know any other. I keep telling people who put out press releases. No, I don't know anyone who does it. I'm the only person who does that. Now I'm in the position to be able to afford to pay other people to do it for me.
Yeah.
But I had a whole raft of press releases go out 2 weeks ago, and the
Yeah.
impact of that has been enormous.
To be honest, people could get that done on Fiverr.
That's exactly why I do it now.
Yeah, of course. Fiverr, Upwork, you can get loads done, can't you?
That's right. Outsource. Absolutely. And I don't know why people don't do this.
I don't think
Um,
they're aware. Honestly, Andrew, I don't think they know. I've only fairly recently found out, and I've had books kind of laid out for the price that you wouldn't imagine.
Yeah.
It's madness. Oh,
Yeah,
that's good.
everyone's focused on the mindset. I've got to have a mindset.
Well, that's
No,
what
you
this.
don't. You've got to do the work.
Well, no, I get that, but that's what these coaches I'm talking to you about in the birth world are selling.
Yes.
In fact, it's all psychobabble mindset stuff
Yes.
that you get in a self bloody help book.
So now, if I was a newly qualified birth worker, I like that term. I've not heard that term before.
Wow.
I like that.
Yeah, birth worker. It kind
In
of
whatever format it takes.
There
So
you go.
the natural thing would be, oh, I'm going to contact the local maternity hospital and let them know who I am. Let's let the
No chance. No
good
chance.
luck with that.
Well, they won't work with anyone that's not contracted to the trust.
Right. So you've got to get somewhere else. So I would go to the people that need. And also, here's the thing: if I'm a middle to upper class, affluent female who's about to give birth, do I need a weekend trained birth worker? No, I bloody don't, because I can afford somebody else who's better.
True.
And do I need the newly qualified person? No, I don't. So here's what I would be doing.
True.
I would be going to those people who need those services the most but can't access them.
Family centres.
Everywhere where there is that. And who would we be looking at? We're looking at the people with no money.
Yeah.
And no one wants to do that. I want to make a living. I want to be successful. I want the 6-figure income because I'm a coach. I'm an alphabet therapist. Well, sometimes you've just got to do the work.
Yeah.
And the success comes later. And so I would be focusing my attention on the community where there are huge, and good grief, especially in Britain today. I mean, my God, I have no words. I despair for a first world country what's actually happening in terms of our social services, our social structures, and the care of the people. The underclass is growing, the financial underclass.
Finding a need to meet, it shouldn't be difficult. That's what you're saying.
It's the easiest thing in the world. But what you have to do is go out and start talking to people. You've got to do the research. You've got to go and actually spend the hours of time talking to people already working in those areas. Yeah. And I say pastoral counseling services, the housing agencies, the homeless agencies. I mean, how about, here's a story. This is something the local media will run a full page on you. What about the pregnant homeless? What about the pregnant women in women's refuges who need care and support and psychological intervention and support in order to deal with their circumstances? Because imagine being homeless and you're pending giving birth. Because keep that child, possibly, but not guaranteed, because now you're subject, if you're that woman, you're subject to
referral. Yeah,
exactly, because the welfare of the child comes first. Now, these are areas that if I was a birth worker, I would absolutely know the law about. I would also know the lawyers who are working in those areas. I would know the names of all the social workers who they may get referred to. I'd make damn sure I've had coffee with those. I don't drink coffee, sorry, tea with those social workers. I would make sure that I have spent time that when I meet a woman who is about to give birth and is in dire straits circumstances, I know all the people she may refer to.
Yeah.
No one's doing this.
I can hear people shouting at their blimmin' listening devices going, yeah, it's all right for him, but that's not going to pay the bills.
Well, then good luck. Then the work will keep coming to me because I'm going to keep doing that sort of thing. No, obviously, I'm not working in birthing. But people can make whatever excuses they want.
Yeah, got it.
Here's the other thing that I did. So I went from working full-time for other people and then running my practice secondary because I wasn't making the money because I was still building the expertise.
So you went into occupational health for a while?
Yep. And so that was shift work. So I still would have, half days here and there to be dedicating to some other stuff. Now, once I got to the point where I'm at work and I'm frustrated because there's other things I need to be doing, as in building up my own practice, I then went down to 4 days a week.
Right.
And then it gave me a full day a week to dedicate. And it was Friday, so I dedicated. Now, then I started to reduce it down. Then I went to a 3-day a week job. Actually, what I did, I was running temporary contracts that were 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And my savings started to dwindle dramatically at this point, but I needed that spare time.
Yeah.
And that round about that time, I actually had to downsize. I couldn't afford to live where I was living.
You weren't
So
married at this point, because
no. So I had to change my living circumstances in order to decrease my outgoings,
yeah.
which I didn't really want to do, but I had no choice. I then went down to 2 days a week. And that was the point where I'm now scrabbling around the drawers looking for coins on the odd occasion. But that was just enough to keep me pretty much from going into debt and just getting by. And then it started to increase from there. And then I got to the point that I could then quit working for the man altogether.
Right.
And then
So-
I went working for myself.
So these people that are selling this notion that you can build a business quick,
Well,
they're
scammers.
they're just selling a lie.
Yeah, well, I'm not. If they reckon they can get six-figure incomes and six-figure annual turnover, blah blah blah. Why are they not doing that? Why are they running courses to create competition for themselves?
Yeah, exactly. I'm
It's
thinking
like
of
all the get-rich-quick guys, the guys who tell you how to do trading on Forex. Well, why aren't they trading on Forex? Why are they creating competition for themselves?
Yeah.
It's just a standard scam. It's the same thing over and over.
Yeah, I was listening to a trainer recently who's quite famous in the NLP world say that all his academies for, coaching are just a side hustle because, of course, he gets all his income from 6 high-paying clients.
Of course.
But just why are you doing these marketing free things where you sign up at the end for a discount? Why are you doing that then?
Yeah.
I'm quite
the people think the fake it till you make it is a realistic option, and I think it's just so colossally naive. And I personally do find all those things quite insulting, because I know myself and my colleagues who I know what we do. I know what we go through to do what we do. And then there's all these people who go, well, you've just got to do this, my proven 7-step system for getting a 6-figure income. And the insults are multi-layered there, both in you do know that these are people, basically you're getting rich off the backs of the impoverished and the desperate. That's essentially what they're pushing.
And the training addicts, those folk that need the next course to be ready.
Yeah.
And they never are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, of course, a lot of people go on training courses because it's what I call recreational education.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I've done lots of recreational. I used to do lots of stuff at the open evenings at universities. The little courses here and there. Years in my 20s, I was always doing an evening course of some description. But I loved it. It was just
the internet has made it easier, because I'm doing a Stanford university course on relativity at the moment, and of course you can do that for free.
Yeah,
you can audit it. It's
wonderful.
Fantastic. Yeah. I'll tell you what, I'm finding what you're saying quite inspirational, because I have been a social media junkie. I get that dopamine release when people comment nice things and when your followers go up. And what you're saying is quite revolutionary to a lot of people that will be listening to this.
Yeah.
Because you're actually saying there is no easy way.
Right. And there's other stuff that people might want to consider too, which might make it a little easier. Now, it's little things like on a Sunday, pop along to your local parish church, even if you have no belief or values in church whatsoever. I'm not a particular fan, doesn't matter. And what you need to do is sit at the back and watch, why are those people there? What are and order in your perceptions, what are the primary reasons? A lot of people are there not because they're looking to get forgiveness and salvation. A lot of people are there because this is their connection to community. This is their connection to other human beings. This is their connection to finding friends, finding social contact, finding social support. Whereas a lot of people are, the epidemic of loneliness, where people are just sitting, looking out the window, don't know what to do, disconnected from community. Then go to things like the Probus Club, which is an after dinner. It's a dinner club for retired business people.
Right.
Then have a look at things like the Odd Fellows. The Odd Fellows are an enormous organisation in the UK, providing social support to enormous numbers of people. Go to the pastoral counselling services. Go to those coffee mornings for single mums. All of those community centres are hubs of different clubs and societies.
And soft play areas for birth workers.
Right. So there's a huge number of things already in place that are largely their whole mission, their whole purpose is to alleviate suffering. Their whole purpose is to alleviate the suffering of being human in our modern society by bringing people together, creating connection. Now, that is the absolute thing that coaches and therapists seem to miss.
Yeah.
The other thing is people really want to look. The death of broadcast media is coming, and it's because they've missed something. Now, for anyone over the age of about 22 may not even know this, twitch.com.
Yeah.
Now, have a look at Twitch, and essentially what you have is largely very young, it's largely teenagers in the tens of thousands who are all either live streaming or joining other people's live streams. The most common one, it's people who are playing computer games while they've got a camera on themselves and a microphone open. And they will have like 70, 80,000 people watching them play the game. Now, why? Why are they? What is that? What's happening there? It's simple. It's human connection. These are kids connecting in large groups with other kids around a central feature, which is a game they all like.
Yeah.
It's about community and connection.
So in saying that, you are, for me, I'm feeling a bit hopeful. So you are suggesting it's possible to experience human connection through some kind of social medium that's virtual.
Right. However, I wouldn't push too much on that. Okay.
All right.
Because here's the thing. So whilst humanity and existing services out there are all building connections to people, what is the central premise of the coach and the therapist and the alphabet therapist? It is division and isolation. You can be different to who you are. You can be anything you want to be. You can have the life you want to have. You don't have to be held back by other people. Stay away from the negative people, blah, blah.
It's
they
siloed.
are espousing effectively the cult of individualism and narcissism.
Yeah, they are.
And they wonder why they're not getting the business.
Yeah.
They only have to go and look at why the kids all group together in huge numbers on Twitch, why people are at the church, why people are at the Oddfellows meeting, why the drunk in the pub. Okay, it's not the best place at all, but again, that's about community.
Yeah.
And that's the very ethos that the life coaching world has forgotten.
Is missing. And it flies in the face of evolutionary development. You know, we're a herd animal, right?
Yeah.
You know, outside the herd, you're dead.
Right. But the whole coaching world in all of its forms has completely forgotten that. And unfortunately, those individuals, here's the thing. How many people do we know who, as a result of getting involved in personal development, have divorced, alienated from their family, lost all their friends, and they now have got a bunch of values that basically make them completely unlikable? I've lost count over the years.
Wow.
The classic thing is, now I'm into personal development, I need to get my partner to come so they can see the error of their ways. And then it begins, the isolation and separation from community.
Yeah. Well, even the founder, you know, even the discoverers, if you like, of NLP are not, they're not a showcase for how to relate well to one another.
And whilst they might, many of the people in these inner circles may profess to be really close, I've been amongst them and I can see how horrible they are to each other and about each other behind their backs. I have experienced those things firsthand. I've been subject to it myself. Okay, I've probably been party to it as well.
Well, you I mean, you do poke some of them. You do prod them, let's be frank.
Yeah. But when I've been behind the scenes, working behind the scenes on large scale courses, I mean, years back when I was gaining experience on that kind of part of the world, that world of the communities, or whatever I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I know.
When I was seeing that, I couldn't believe how horrible these people actually are to each other, to each other. Individually, they were fine. Individually, they're fine. But as a collective, it's just awful.
Horrible.
Because it's about division and separation from the community. We are a superior species because we're an alphabet therapist.
Yeah. Well, you've given me an hour of your time, Andrew, and I could honestly speak to you for, I don't know, got loads I want to talk. I want to talk about magic.
Well, we can do that another time if you want.
I'd love it. I want to talk about your IEMT training, because that's a bit of a hot button within the birth world, because EMDR is a recommended therapy for complex PTSD, which quite a large number of women are being diagnosed post-birth. And I know your IEMT is not EMDR. In fact, it's probably more effective and easier to apply to a client. I mean, that's fair to say, isn't it?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah. So if you would come back, that'd be great. But I just want you, would you give us a few reading recommendations? I know it seems a question
Oh,
way out of the blue.
We could be we could be here. Could be here a while.
All right. Well, just a couple. Yeah,
Okay, so
in the context that we're talking, maybe,
yeah.
if that's possible, yeah.
Okay, so for me, the number one thing people need to study is systems.
Yeah.
And systems design, systems theory. And this goes against the grain. Like, well, what's that got to do with me being a therapist?
No, I got it.
And I've actually, do you know what? It's because I was talking about this yesterday. It's this book.
Yeah,
this
Steps
is
to an Ecology of the Mind. That's the one that you can't read that book, though, can you? You got to study that book.
So Gregory Bateson, Steps to an Ecology of Mind. This is the foundation, the cornerstone of everything that I do. Bateson was an incredibly smart guy. And a lot of his writings, because of the information density of it, it's not something you can just peruse. It's something you need to look at it and go, okay, what's he referring to there? Off you go to Wikipedia and learn about the stuff he's talking about, then come back to the next paragraph. If people do that and they get to the position where they can read that book and completely understand it, I think they're going to be in an excellent position for life, personally.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not about therapy. It's not about personal development. It's about systems and systems design.
It starts off with him having a chat with his daughter.
Yes.
The first chapter.
To be fair, Steps to Ecology of Mind is actually more an anthology it's a collection of writings as opposed to something that was written to be a book. Right. But there is some kind of logic to how it sequences together.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Well, that's number one. Have you got another?
Yes. Pragmatics of Human Communication by Paul Václavic. Václavic is spelled Watzlawick, which is how I always thought it was said. Okay. Pragmatics of Human Communication. Now, Václavic is one of the most entertaining writers on the subject you'll ever come across. The book itself looks like one of those scary-looking, academic, dry, boring things. Václavic is anything but boring. And I'd recommend everything he has written.
Okay, I've never heard of it.
A lot of the stuff is a repetition or an exposition of the major themes in Pragmatics. So Pragmatics of Human Communication, just trust me, one of the best books you will get.
Thank you very much. Hey, and where people can find you. I don't mean your address.
I'm hiding in my attic.
Yeah, you are. Well, you see guards and all the rest of it.
My main website, 23nlpeople.com.
Yeah, and
just as an aside, I was an early adopter of the internet. I was one of the first NLP websites on the internet. And I just want to give a comparison to how things have changed. This was before Google was even a thing. Wow. No one even heard the word Google at that point. Now, my website, which was very rudimentary and was largely my collected writings on schizophrenia and hypnotherapy, I used to get around about 20,000 hits a day.
Wow.
And I was at number one on most of the search engines, which again don't exist these days. Alta Vista, where did that go? Lycra, was it Lycra? Lycos, something like that.
Yeah, Lycos.
Lycos, that was the one.
Yeah.
There was another one as well. And again, the main ones Yahoo was actually the dominant search engine at the time.
I remember.
I was in the top returns for all of those on the key because there wasn't many NLP sites. I get 20,000 hits a day sometimes.
Wow.
Now that was amazing. Now I'm lucky if I get 20.
Yeah.
And I've got on my website, I've got around about 150 written articles on there that I've collected over the years.
Yeah, I've got it in front of me now.
And the hit rate is just horrifying to me because there's so much competition now in terms of internet. And that's why I think people should not quite rely on it quite so much, because I've seen the trend change dramatically over those years.
And if they search for you on YouTube, they'll get your YouTube channel.
Yeah, they'll need to search for me on Andrew T. Austin. Andrew Austin's on Legion. There's lots of us.
Right.
I get mistaken there's a DJ, I think he's in Ontario, Andrew Austin. There's a singer-songwriter also called Andrew Austin.
All right.
I'm not those guys. I'm not that creative.
So remember the T, Andrew T. Austin for the YouTube. And just say the website again. It's
23NL People. But if people Google my name, it comes up. It comes up straight away.
Brilliant. Well, thanks, Andrew. You've been amazing. I really do appreciate
Mark,
it.
Thank you.
And I hope you are up for another chat because there's so many other things I'd like to talk about.
Just let me know when. I'll be there.
All right. Well, and thank you for listening. We're done. Bye.